Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand today to address Bill C-63, the Budget Implementation Act. Today, I will speak to the concern that I share with many Canadians. In my riding this past summer, I heard from countless constituents at their own tables with small and medium-sized businesses. Even though I heard from the hundreds of different people and each of their situations were unique, one thing was common: Canadians are overwhelmingly concerned about how their businesses and their families are going to make ends meet. Mr. Speaker, my constituents of Markham Unionville are concerned about this government's economic update. The cycle of debt and deficit is not the key to success. I know that sensible budgeting and limiting government are what will allow our economy to flourish. The same free market principle that allows small businesses to be successful can be applied to our country. The small market allows for optimal application of resources, incentive to work hard, and more freedom. That is why I stand today to speak against this government's out-of-control spending and huge deficit that will leave our children to pick up the bill. I stand today as a voice of taxpayers, the average Canadian, and fight every day to leave money in the hands of the people that earned it, not to be foolishly spent by this Liberal government. Businesses have to find ways to stretch a dollar, but the government throws it away. We saw this foolish pattern in the previous budget, Fall Economic Statement, and now the Budget Implementation Act. This just confirmed to Canadians that the government cannot be trusted with our nation's finances. Let me highlight what this record shows. First, Budget 2017 projected a $28.5 billion deficit for the 2017-2018 fiscal year. This is almost triple, Mr. Speaker, triple the Liberal promise of a small $10 billion deficit. Second, in 2017, Fall Economic Update confirmed the government is still spending double its promise, small $10 billion deficit. Third, they have broken their promise to balance the budget in 2019. In effect, have no plan to return to balanced budget. This is simply irresponsible. Finally, under the Liberal government, more than 80% of middle-class Canadians are paying more taxes today than they were paying in 2015 under the government of Conservatives. It is clear that the Liberal government does not have the best interest of Canadians in mind. C-63 just shows us that the finance minister is good at spending other people's money. It is a shame that this government continually attacks those who create wealth, are entrepreneurial, and want to work hard to succeed. We saw this just a few months ago when the finance minister introduced tax planning using private corporations. Canadians are scared to do business at home. There is no incentive, and they are taxed out of the market. Almost every day, I hear another example of the entrepreneur, a doctor, small corporation leaving our country to do business south of the border. Mr. Speaker, this trend cannot continue. We need to allow a healthy environment to do business, to flourish in order for our economy and in turn our country to be successful. On top of business leaving, the debt and deficit continue to rise. It is like the finance minister can't help himself. The previous Conservative government did right by Canadians. According to Finance Canada, there was a surplus of $3.2 billion at the end of 2015, and even the Liberals can accept that we balanced the budget in 2014-2015, ahead of our original schedule. The last economic outlook for the Minister of Finance showed that revenue were holding up better than expected. GDP growth in the last quarter of 2015 was also higher than expected. The previous Conservative government created jobs during the worst economic downturn since the Great Recession. Canada had the best job creation and economic growth record among G7 countries. The previous Conservative government balanced budget after running a targeted stimulus program that created and maintained approximately 200,000 jobs. We kept our promise to balance the budget and left the Liberals with $3.2 billion surplus at the end of 2015, Mr. Speaker. The previous Conservative government lowered taxes. We reduced taxes to their lowest point in 50 years, with a typical family of 4 saving almost $7,000 per year. The previous Conservative government created approximately 1.3 million net new jobs, the most per capita in G7. These were high-quality jobs, with 80% of them full-time and another 80% of them were in a private sector. The Prime Minister and the Finance Minister, they were lucky enough to inherit good fortune themselves. They inherited good fortune in the form of balanced budget and to recovering economy from the Conservatives. However, their carelessness and mismanagement spent this good fortune very quickly. Mr. Speaker, now here we are halfway through this government's mandate, and all we can see is that Prime Minister is giving with one hand and taking with the other hand. This is not sustainable. This is not responsible, and Canadians are concerned. In order to feed their greedy spending, the Liberals have raised taxes on hydro, gasoline, home heating, health and dental benefits, employee discounts, personal savings, life-saving therapies, and of course, local businesses. This government is hurting the very people they claim to want to help. Job creating, business won't invest in the Canadian economy. If they do not know the cost of doing business, settling businesses with higher taxes, changing the rules of game when they are not looking, and handling borrowed money from one politician to another will not create jobs. Mom and pop shops are going to face higher taxes that for many will put them out of business. Mr. Speaker, it is high taxes hypocrisy for the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister to force middle-class Canadians to pay for their government out-of-control spending while their family fortune remains untouched. Too many Canadian families are already struggling to make ends meet. They cannot afford to be taxed further. I am in favor of free market while people are able to get ahead by working hard. It contributes to economic freedom, prosperity, and create competitive market. This creates more choice for both the firm and the consumers. Free market principles and hard work are what allowed me to become a successful businessman, Mr. Speaker. These principles are what inspires the Canadians' dream, and they are the way we build a prosperous country. Every economist knows that the only reason our economy has slowed is because companies have stopped investing. This government is stifling opportunities. This is not right. I cannot understand how the current Liberal approach, more government spending, higher taxes, regulatory uncertainty, is going to solve this problem. I obviously cannot support this legislation. Taxpayers do not deserve this. Businesses and entrepreneurs do not deserve this. Canadians do not deserve this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.